Hello and welcome. Welcome to Humor Arts Museum. I am absolutely honored that you are here. My name is Reverend Barbara Ann Michaels, Jester of the Piece. I am a clown theater artist, a writer, and also an interfaith minister. I'm a legal clergy person who's not a member of a faith. My mission in life is to uplift the heart of the world through humor. All of the projects that are part of Humorville, including Humor Arts Museum, are about humor and wellness. So we are building a town here called Humorville, where we have a museum, which is Humor Arts Museum, which is what we're honoring today. We have a congregation, House of Holy Humor. We have a post office, Love Letter Lounge. We have a library, It's Funny Now. All of that is available on the Jester of the Piece website, which I'll put in the chat in a little bit. Today, we are very happy to be celebrating a reception for our first group exhibition. This is humorous painting and drawing from 1700 to the present. It was curated by Karen E. Gersch, who is here, who will be speaking and also will be interviewing some of the contemporary artists from our show. Thank you for being here. We began with Humor Arts Museum with a solo show for Karen, which you can see on the site. And now she's curated this. One of the reasons and the why behind Humor Arts Museum is that this is a museum for people to come and feel good and feel better. In the art world, sarcastic and negative humor is highly prevalent and extremely well curated. If there's any desire to find some sarcastic and humorous art, it's very easy to find because it's been very well curated by many institutions and galleries and artists. It's also vitally necessary. We need sarcasm. We need negative humor. We have to deal with the pains of life through humor and the ups and downs through sarcasm. So they're important. And they've been so well curated that kind-hearted, uplifting, joyful art it's not uncurated, but it's very loosely curated. It's not commonly curated. And so Humor Arts Museum is specifically curating that. What has a smile, feel good, what is warm, what is loving? In the face of a global mental health crisis that we have right now, Humor Arts Museum is, and all of the projects of Humorville are providing a place to come to enjoy feeling good and feel better through the arts. So with that, I thank you so much for being here. It's a delight to see you. And I turn it over to our curator, Karen Gersch. Karen is a painter. You can go see her solo show. As I said, she is a career circus artist as a clown and an acrobat. She is a curator for a long time. And Karen, I turn it to you. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. So I think it's safe to say that we're all kind of brought up with the idea that art is serious matter. That's a kind of, through the time, that's pretty much a given. And, you know, most historians and art professors tend to simply avoid it. There isn't that focus on you know, art. And that's what I want to delve into with the Humor Arts Museum in curating exhibits. I want to make it a real melange of historical works. You know, that's why I've included from early as the 1700s, not to say there isn't even earlier works that are really funny and uplifting, but certainly Dadaism, which rose from the chaos of World War I. And they call themselves a rupture with social conventions through humor, derision, and irreverence. And I think that applies to a lot of humor we see these days. You know, and the classic Dadaists, Duchamp, Magritte, who I've included here, Max Ernst, Otto Dix, Schaunard, George Grosz, there's many. And then you have contemporary Dadaists, who I consider Banksy, whose work is so profound for being having a voice for the socio-political scene, for what's happening in the world today, and making us laugh at the same time as we're cringing. Maurizio Catalan, if you don't know his work. He's a fabulous conceptual artist and sculptor. And I hope to include his work in another show. But I'm also interested in creating a platform for contemporary artists, for artists I know and admire here who are working in a multitude of mediums and whose work reflects either the spirit or commentary or a political consciousness. And that I've carefully chosen the artists that are in this exhibit. And I'm thrilled that 3 of them are here. And I certainly want to give them each time to discuss their work. I can blag about it, but it's better that you hear it from them. Shall we start with Ruth? Do you want to? Ruth Geneslaw, when I was curating at a cultural center in Beacon for a year, I invited her to bring her work in, and I just love her work. It's so thoughtful, so funny, and it's just unusual. These are wood carvings that are hand painted. So Ruth, I'm going to let you take over and tell us a little bit about your background and the work that you do.
Okay, well, I've been doing this wood carving for, I guess, a little over 30 years now. And actually before that, I was a fiber artist, but I got very interested in outsider art and folk art. And one day I just decided to pick up a knife and try carving. And as I started to get into the works became they became narrative commentary on social and political issues. And they were really serious fun, because when you look at them, they're very funny, but yet there's almost always an underlying serious issue that I'm addressing. So you have to look carefully at some of my work, because it's not always so obvious what it's about. But my work often starts with the titles. That gives me the whole idea. I just got this picture in my mind of what it is. So a lot of and I worked in a library for many years, so I had access to a lot of books with language, with words. I was very interested in phrases, in cliches, particularly cliches, quotations, things like that. And sometimes just a phrase would just catch my ear. So Dragging My Heels portrays a woman who is dragging this whole pile of shoes out of a shoe repair store. And of course, you notice that she's barefoot despite all the shoes that she has, because her feet hurt. But these heels, you have to look very carefully. There are also 2 little men that are included. They're the size of the shoes, so it's hard to discern. But there are 2 little men that are also, unfortunately, you can't see the back of the piece. So I have the piece here, and on the back, there's a whole other view on the back where I actually give the definition of what a heel is. It's a noun, and then the first definition is footwear in which the heel is raised higher than the toe, and the second definition is a contemptible person. And then I've listed all kinds of shoes, just the names of various shoes that from some from historical.
We should be able to do tomorrow morning for at least an hour, maybe a little longer. Suzanne said she's going to leave early, on the early side.
Hi, whoever that is, please mute yourself.
Yeah.
Wait now.
Yeah, I already, Bill from Floating Worlds Gallery sent me photographs of the stuff that's going to do.
Barbara, can you?
I'm doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
This is the backside of the piece, which would be the interior of the store. And as I was describing, there's the definitions and then all the different kinds of shoes, and the front of it. I don't know if you could see the little, you know, the little men.
Oh, yeah, there he is. Yeah.
There's another little guy inside there. So she's so it's a shoe store that's shoes repaired while you wait, and so that was it was just a kind of a fun piece, but also a statement about contemporary life. So that's this piece, but a lot of my work is in that kind. I've done some political work as well, but I have another piece behind me which is called Shopping for Mr. Right. And you know, a lot of the pieces I have sort of themes. They deal with relationships, women's issues, things like that. So I have a Shopping for Mr. Right, where she is in. I don't know if you can see this, but she's in the man department, and she has a shopping basket, and of course she puts the cliched doctor into her shopping basket. That's who she's picked out of all the men on the shelf. She's in a department store, and she's walking in the department, and all these various these men, you know, a judge, a fireman, an artist, you know, a doctor, a chef, a musician, an athlete, a surgeon. Anyway, she has selected the doctor, and that's the one that she's picked out. So that was another piece which also was inspired by a single friend of mine who said, well, can't you do something about, you know, women looking, you know, they're looking for men, and for a long time I said, well, nothing comes to me, and then suddenly that phrase, Shopping for Mr. Right, just came to me, and so it became this funny piece. So
I want to say that the next group exhibit I'll be curating is focusing on sculptors and photographers. And I've already asked Ruth to, I will be including more of her pieces, her very humorous pieces in that show. So you'll be able to see more of her work. And that'll be from February to the end of March. Thank you, Ruth. That's
thank
super. You. Ron, are you still with us?
Partially.
Oh, should I wait and come back to you, or is it?
I can try to say something. I'm not sure how long I will last.
Okay.
I've already spoken more words today than I have in the entire day, or actually for the last few days, in fact. So I am for the last 25 years, I have been an acupuncturist and an herbalist. But my first love, really, from the age of about 15, was movies, documentary movies in particular. And I worked in film and editing of documentaries for about 15 years in New York before I went to acupuncture school. And now, in the last, I would say, 15 years, photography has once again become a revived passion of sorts. And it's mostly, with my wife, I do a lot of traveling. And I would say that excuse me, the thing that really gets me, that attracts me the most is, it's actually the same thing that attracted me to documentary filmmaking. That is getting a sort of a sense of connection with people, of trying to reveal something about people through simply by putting a frame around the image and just allowing someone the luxury of some time look and feel the spirit of the people that are in the picture, which I find, I mean, even as I look at this picture, I feel like it grows on me. It has a kind of a, what's the word, almost a visceral effect.
I think it's one of these photos that it's not possible to look at it without smiling in some way.
Yeah, yeah.
The heart smiles to see this, their expressions and her care, her arm around her brother. It's just a lovely image.
Yeah. I think I will leave it at that. To go on any more than this would become pretentious. To say nothing of stirring up something that I would rather keep under wraps.
I will say that Ron is, as he said, an avid traveler around the world, and he has the most stunning photos of places as well as people that he's been to. And one of my shows was a travel show after the pandemic, and he had some wonderful pieces in there from Myanmar, Vietnam, Cuba, all over.
Which I would add, if anyone wants to take a look at them, there is a website where you can peruse and browse.
Can you put the website in the chat, Ron? Is that
I think I
possible?
can, yeah.
So people can, that'd be great.
Let's see. And they are organized by, for the most part, organized by country.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
So you can take a trip around the world. Look
Yeah.
at his.
Quite so. Quite so.
Um,
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. That's not quite right.
okay,
There we go. That's, yeah, it's the second one.
okay. Thank you. So, Barbara Masterson, are you there?
I am
see-
here. I am
Okay.
here.
Okay, there you are. Okay, now I see. Barbara is an amazing painter. I so admire this woman's work and how prolific she is. I don't think she ever goes a day without painting. She is also, well, I'll let you speak about what makes your work special, because it is.
Thank you, Karen. It's nice to see you, and it's nice to see Barbara. We met at the Howland Center. I don't know if you remember that, Barb. So 8 years ago, I was considered a plein air painter. And while on a local farm, the migrant workers came into view, and I ended up following them all summer and painting them on plein air. And then they all left for the season, and I was devastated. I didn't really know what to do. So while I was painting them live, I was taking their photographs as well, of course, with their permission. And so I've been painting them nonstop for 8 years, and I have a lot of paintings of the migrant workers, and they are joyous. I have never seen one of them have a grudge or a complaint about this hard work that they do. And this happens to be Vincent. I met him the first year, and I've painted him 9 or 10 times. And I keep going back and revisiting the different workers and making new friends with the ones that are here now. Of course, during the pandemic, it was extremely difficult to get to see them. And I love color, and that's what I do.
Barbara is also the recipient of several awards, including just recently. Can you tell them about that, Barbara?
Oh, that was that award came from Artsmith Hudson, and the award is called an Artivist. They give an Artivist award, which combines an art form and some kind of statement, political statement, or world statement. Because if you look at my work, I'm not only painting these joyous people that work really hard, I'm also making a point of, do they have health care? Are they paid a fair wage? What are their living conditions like? And so that's why I got that award. And I was surprised and thrilled to get that, because I never really thought of myself as an artivist or an activist, but this work is certainly can be very political.
And as Barbara inferred, she doesn't just use these workers as models. She befriends each one of them. She knows their histories, their family life, where they're from, what, their hardships when they came here, what she knows all their stories. And so she's developed quite a rapport and quite a bond with these people. And I think that's really the essence of that, is what shines in these paintings, what's radiant, because you see how much she understands them and feels for them.
Thank you, Karen. I do notice that when I don't get to see them or don't get to speak with them or bring them clothes or bikes or whatever they might need, I feel a void in my life.
Yeah, it's a mutual adoption, you can say. I will speak on behalf of Pat MacDonald, who could not be with us today, who has a piece. I think it might be back. Keep going. There. Free range. And I just love this painting because lightness and the whole idea of all of these chickens out in this field. And Pat told me that it's was done plein air from, there is an incredible retreat, what would you call it? You can rent this venue. It's called Blue Hills at Stone Barns, and it's in Westchester near Tarrytown. It's an unbelievable place. They do rent out for weddings and for events and large venues. Incredible amounts of property. They have their own organic food. They grow their own gardens. They keep their own chickens, obviously. And she said she was there walking around and she came across all of these chickens and just set up her easel and began to paint. Pat's a local artist. She's here in Orange County, and she likes to have a connection, she says, with moments in time and create new stories with her work. So those are, oh, there is Gabrielle. Do we want to go up to? Because I can say something about her. There we go. Okay. So for all you cat lovers, this was a British woman who never went to school until she was 17, and then she was accepted to the London School of Art. And before that, she was trained by her mother, who was a painter. So she was homeschooled up near the Scottish-English border. And she moved to the States. During the war, World War II, she was drawing maps for the Allied forces. And that is where she met her husband, who was an economist who was pretty much a spy and working also. And after the war, they married, and then they lived in France and then eventually moved to the States. And she had a house in Connecticut, and she painted every day, everything she saw. She had an English garden. She always had cats, profuse flowers, and there's just something so peaceful and sweet about this painting. It's really uplifting, I think, because of the colors and the quietude of it, which is why I chose it. So those are the contemporary artists I guess you can include, I do have a drawing in here of penguins from the French Zoo. I often go to, when I go to countries, I always go to the zoos and I draw the animals. I'm just very fond of that. So, so these are the contemporary artists that I included in this opening group show. And I just want to make a few comments on some of the elders. And then I'd like to open it up for people to ask questions of the artists, that they can have a dialogue with them and talk to them. DuCreux, our opening image, it's you know, when you talk about the starving artist, this man was anything but. He was a baron. He was a very wealthy baron, but he was also a prolific artist. And he was known for his paintings that were just unusual expressions of people and moments. And I thought this was wonderful. It's also some of these early painters, the really from the 1800s, they're incredibly magnificent paintings. The quality is there as if they were, you know, but you don't really see them in the light of museums. They don't often aren't shown. Like if we go to the Crow, I want to go to Grutzner. Yeah, another one, just so classically rendered and just absurd. And this is also, interestingly enough, he was also from a noble family and very wealthy. So it's just, and he mostly painted monks, especially when they were drinking. And I thought that was just a riot. But he was a very well regarded artist for his time. Let's see, going down to oh, here's a Manet that's very unusual. You would never have thought of this being a Manet portrait, but it's just so quirky, but it's also charming for its simplicity. And then we have, can we go down to Basquiat? Let's go to another contemporary no longer with us. Oh yeah, and then George. He had a wicked sense of humor, and he was also, as we know, very, very politically minded. He was really a good vanguard for his times and for his life. A very unique style and really organic and but incredibly graphic and full of humor, if not dark humor. Can you go back up to Georges Croegaert? So this is the other Belgian painter, academic painter, who also chose to depict cardinals, cardinals eating and drinking. And I mean, they're magnificent paintings, the details and such, but it's remarkable to me that I have never seen any of these artists in a museum. I've never seen their works. So I don't know if that speaks to not being recognized, for the humor not being recognized, not wanting to, acknowledge it, or that, it's considered lesser. I don't know. Leo Gestel, who's right here next, is a wonderful, this is a wonderful simple line drawing, but he had a myriad of styles, and it just really simplistic, but very enchanting. So we go down to Frederick Childe Hassam. Yeah, I think this is such a gorgeous painting, the Strawberry Tea Set. It's just stunning. And for the light, for the colors, for her expression, and for the delicacy of the composition. She's, it reminds me of a Bonnard painting, who I much admire. And to me, this is just, when I look at this painting, I just, my heart sings. There's just something so beautiful about it. I think putting together overall a conglomeration of different works like this is a little challenging, because you want everything to work and you don't want it to be glaringly, the distinction is what I'm looking for, but you don't want it to be jarring in terms of how different these are. Heinrich Kley was an illustrator and painter, and this is one of his rare paintings. He usually worked in black and white and ink drawings, and fabulous drawings that depicted animals, pretty much having orgies or involved in esoteric situations. But he was a master illustrator, and if you have a chance to look up his work, it's really rewarding. I think, Gustav Klimt, we think of him as a very esoteric painter and a very romantic painter. Again, this it isn't a ha-ha painting, but it's a painting that really has a lot of spirit and beauty to it. So, what I would like, and Saul Steinberg, who is just a brilliant cartoonist, you can say, his drawings, which I think we all know, just remarkable. And I'm hoping that with the Humor Arts Museum, people will discover artists they know nothing about, that they aren't aware of, they don't know, and be inspired to say, oh, I want to look up more of their work. That would be a real plus here. Fred Gwynne, we all remember Fred Gwynne as Herman Munster, right? He was an extraordinary painter, and I had the opportunity to see a painting exhibition of his. I was just floored. But he was also a children's book illustrator, and he did these books that were just visual puns, absolute visual puns. Obviously, coming to a Daddy Says there are always forks in the road is the title of this. So it's really great, because I feel like it's there's so much potential and so much ability to take this many places, this kind of exhibition. So what I'd like to do is open this up for people who are attending to speak to the artists who are here, or to ask me questions, and to give some feedback, because that helps us to guide us going forward, and to know that we're going in a direction that makes sense and tintillates. So
Yes, Ruth.
Okay, I'd like to ask Karen a question, actually.
Okay.
Karen, I can see that you really know your art history, and I would like to know how you went about actually selecting the historical works of art for this show. I mean, how did you start? Where do you begin on something like that?
Well, I did have a list of artists in mind, and then it was a matter of looking through their work and seeing which exact pieces I wanted. One work per, like Magritte, who I love, and any one of his pieces could go into the Humor Arts Museum. But I love Clairvoyance. I thought that was a brilliant painting. But I first I went through this that I knew, and then I really researched other artists. I have a big art book collection. I collect books of artists and historical contemporary. And I researched there. I also researched online a bit, simply sometimes using taglines of humorous painters, 18th century, and came up with some amazing, like I didn't know, actually, I think it was Reverend Barbara, I think it was you who discovered Georges Croegaert.
I
brought
did.
him.
Yeah, I was at an auction. I can't remember if it was at Sotheby's or Christie's in New York, and I turned around the corner and I saw this little frame of a cardinal eating a tiny cake, and it had little frostings on it, and it was $5,000, and I immediately wanted to buy it but didn't do so. And I thought, who is this person who is snagging this moment of delight from someone who we would think would be such a serious person? But I happen to know, I mean, yes, there are some super serious clergy people who are like, that's their zone. They're just like serious all the time. But there is a certain levity that I have found that comes from people who've been spiritual teachers for a really long time. And I think that those paintings capture that, and it just completely delighted me. I would say that even though I didn't buy it that day, I probably visited it 5 times over the hour or 2 that I was there, because every time I looked at it again, it's like, it's the glee of the cardinal eating the oyster, like what, it's so visceral. Another one that we were speaking about before that stood out to me, it grew on me, the one with the chickens. Originally I was like, chickens, huh, okay. All right, I can go with chickens. Chickens have an inherent humor to them. But then I realized that is a silent painting of what is probably an extremely loud event. Like if I imagine what it would be like to be in that field with them, it's absolutely cacophonous, but somehow it looks like this like peaceful pastoral scene. And I find that very humorous upon reflection.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear.
Yeah. We'd love to hear some more questions. Who's got a comment or a question or something that you liked or stood out to you or that you want to know about?
Yeah, sure. I've got a question for Ron. As a photographer myself, I'm curious about how the language barriers may have impacted the communication, because the kids in that picture certainly didn't appear to be struck by in any way by something that was, an obstacle. They definitely connected with you. And I am looking through your other pictures as well.
I will just say before I answer that, Karen, if you want to put me on a tile a little further from yours, I have a feeling you're catching what I have. So feel free to move my tile further away. I feel bad if I make you sick. Well, first of all, I do speak some Spanish, but I have found that one of the best ways of connecting with people with whom I don't share a language is to not be intimidated by my lack of language. There is a way of looking at people that can connect into, that can help you overcome your own insecurity, but not in speaking their language. And I think every country I've been to, even learning 2 or 3 words of the local language is like a magical key that unlocks something. I mean,
Yeah.
years, as you might have seen, there's a gallery on the website from Myanmar, and I think it was 2016. My wife and I went to Myanmar, and this was a real, Myanmar was only open to the West for a mere, I don't know, 8 years or 10 years or so. And we were in places that when we walked through these little villages with people carrying water on their heads and, showering outside, and when they saw us going through their neighborhood, there was this look that was like they'd never seen white people before. And some of the parents would call their kids out of the house to look at us, but there was this sort of suspicion and confusion. But the minute we said hello in the local language, that look of suspicion just transformed into these big smiles, and it was amazing. It was like it somehow just that one word was enough to, allay their fear.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think it really has to do with not feeling. You tend to feel like you're a child if you can only speak on a child's level. And I think ultimately it's really conveying a sense of humor, which is tricky, but I think you can convey your humor without language.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sparkle in the eye. It's acting, with some comedy, not too funny, because then that's a little suspicious. But like if there are kids.
Can I ask you, Ron?
Yeah.
Did you pose them, or did you come across them and she had her arm around her brother and they just smiled, or did you ask them to pose for you?
I think I probably did have them pose, but I don't think I necessarily told them how to pose. Usually when I take pictures of people, I bring the camera up to my eye, but I continue to talk to them while I'm taking pictures. And I also keep one eye open and making contact with them. So one eye is looking through the lens and the other is looking at them. So they often don't really know when the camera is when the shutter is being released. And I take enough pictures while I'm talking, so maybe at first they look a little stiff, and then I say something funny, and it gets on, and like they're wondering like, how long is this going to keep going? And usually one of them, eventually they loosen up, and then there's a good shot. It's almost never the first one though.
Thank you.
The first photo is like the first pancake that you usually have to throw out.
Yes, Susan.
Hi, I just wanted to mention another artist. I don't know if you would consider humorous, although I did, more joyful. And if anyone is familiar with Wayne Thiebaud, who does these giant, enormous paintings of cakes and candies and pastries.
Oh,
and
yeah.
pies.
Yeah.
And I remember, I've always seen his work in books and things. And before, many years ago, before the Whitney moved downtown, there was a huge exhibition of his work, and seeing it in person and seeing the scale of it. I mean, it's like you could go up and like want to touch the frosting on the cakes, and they're just so joyful. And the candy things too. I mean, he does a lot of other things, but always loved his work, and seeing the grand scale of it is just extremely joyful, upbeat, happy. Just wanted to make a comment and bring another artist into the mix.
No, that's great. That's great. I always thought that his little title sign should also give the caloric intake of that painting.
Yeah, I think they're like spectacular and so much more in person. You don't get
Oh,
necessarily
yeah.
a chance to see them the scale they actually are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Karen, there's a question in the chat. If you want to check it from Michael
Oh.
Coran.
Okay. I'm not looking. There I go.
I wonder what the difference is being photos that warm our heart while they make us smile, and paintings that warm our hearts and make us smile.
Yeah.
Is there a difference? I mean, I would say not. In any art form that serves to warm the heart and and bring a smile to the face, is certainly has a validity and an appeal that is and that's why I like to include all different mediums in these exhibits. You can also see that it matters the medium. You can always convey a sense and a lightness of being in any media.
Justin.
So I have a question for Ruth in regards to not necessarily one specific piece, but I scrolled through your website and I noticed that you have a slew of different masterpieces, in my opinion. And a lot of them touch on these really, just unfortunately, they're either sticky or just disgusting topics, like your main header, being all those disgusting men in society. And it kind of raised the question of whether it's personal, emotional, or physical. What piece do you think has impacted you the most? What piece do you think was the hardest for you to have to create? Again, whether it's you physically having to put the amount of hours into it, whether it was something that resonated with you personally, or just collectively, what piece do you think was the hardest for you to have to create?
Well, I think probably it was a political piece, the one that's called Hands Up, Don't, in parentheses, Shoot, because it was about police shooting unarmed blacks. And actually, I did it really quite a while ago, before it became such a, so there was just so many incidents happening. I did it, I think, probably about 2015. And they were all about specific Black people who had been killed. And I photocopied or photo transferred the little story on each figure, on each of the figures where the men were shooting at targets, and the targets were these men. But that was a difficult piece. I think it was it made me very angry. I was very outraged, and that was what made me do that piece, because of the outrage I felt at that. And then what happened was that after I made that piece, there were a lot of places that refused to exhibit it at that time. Now I don't think I would have so much of a problem, because political work is being shown everywhere now. But 2 venues refused to show it because it was they felt it was too controversial. They thought they didn't want to make waves with the police or with anybody else in the community. So I didn't show it there, but it has been exhibited a number of times. But there are other things that I did during the Trump administration that made me very angry as well. And so each piece actually is, I feel very strongly about, and probably every piece that while I'm working on it, I feel very strongly about it. They're like your children, I guess, you love them all. And a lot of them are visual puns, I have to say, as well. So they come out of whatever the saying is, and there's a relationship there to the words. the, you know, the I've done things, you know, about the environment as well, that also enraged me. And when a big shopping center was put up where, you know, the land was destroyed and the animal habitats were destroyed, and there was just a lot of things going on. So my work is, you know, it's not all, it looks funny in some ways, and some of it, most of it looks funny, but there's always something, an underlying serious issue that I'm trying to address.
Right.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, good question, Justin.
And we have from the
Thank you.
chat, Flash, yes, thank you, Justin. We have from in the chat, Flash is saying, Karen, what do you think is the difference between humor versus being playful? And do we need to make this distinction?
It's an interesting question. I don't think we need to make the distinction. As I've explained my choice of several artworks, you know, why I chose them, and maybe we could go to Outhwaite, Barbara, the Outhwaite fairy and frog as an illustration of that. There we go. This woman, I would say it's very endearing, and it's both she and Fred Gwynne, they're very playful drawings. But it's, I mean, it's a, I think there's an open, I want to keep the parameters open in terms of what is inspiring, is uplifting, what is going to work in terms of introducing people to artists they may not know, or works they don't know about artists they do know. I think that these two are playful works, what I would consider playful works. Not to say that that reduces them in any emotive sense. I don't know, did I answer that, Flash?
Flash, you're on mute. Come off and be heard.
Okay. No, I think that humor makes me laugh. These things are bemusing to me, but they're not laughter. So I'm a little bit concerned about how the definition of humor, I'm all up for expanding anybody's definition of whatever word they want. I'm not trying to be super critical, but I also think that to call it humor and then you're bemused but not laughing, you feel a little bit cheated. You know, like, I mean, I want to laugh at something I see the way I do at a cartoon with a caption and that. And so I'm admiring your inclusivity and acceptance, but I'm also thinking I'm a little bit disappointed because I'm feeling like I'm looking for humor and I'm seeing, oh, that's nice. And it's different to me. And maybe it's because I do humor. So I'm just wondering, I mean, I'm certainly interested in this as a topic, and I'm thinking this might be fun for us to debate. It's not meant to insult you.
No, I'm not insulted. It's just that what I do avoid is cartoons. I'm not fond of, I mean, there are cartoonists who I think are very good artists and have a keen sense. But one of the other parameters we had in choosing work for this, and when Barbara and I were setting this up, is that there were two criteria. One, that it be humorous, and two, that it be uplifting. And uplifting is just as important to, I think, to both, because that's you don't need to ha-ha for every single piece. There are some pieces that deliver that, and everyone is welcome to their own response to work. You know, it's,
but don't you think
art is highly personal anyway?
Isn't humor and uplift two different things?
I would say that what produces laughter in a work is going to be individual, and that different people are going to get a full-on laugh out of very, very different things. And so it's not really possible to put forth something that's going to guarantee laughter in a person. What we can do is put forth a range of things that are positive and uplifting that could create laughter in a variety of people. And that's what we're doing. And we also are, and also thank you, Flash. I love your transparency and I love you, as you well know. So we are coming up on the top of the hour, which is our time to say thank you and see you later. We want to thank Barbara and Ruth and Ron for speaking about their work, and Karen for speaking about everyone's work, and all of you for being here and taking the time to be part of a conversation about the role of humor, art, and love in society right now is really important. We, as I said earlier, we have a global mental health crisis happening, and people need to remember that humor, art, and love are daily practices. And having a place like Humorville and a place like Humor Arts Museum to lean in and feel good and feel better is an important part of that daily recipe. These things are all ancient. We're putting them in forms that people in modern times can remember. And so please pass on, please share the Humor Arts Museum, all of Humorville. Please lean in, send friends, come if you're feeling down, come if you're feeling happy. Just come and be part of this wonderful conversation. And in terms of supporting Humor Arts Museum, the work by the contemporary artists in this show is for sale, and you can see that on the site. And the work that's in museums is probably for sale if you pitch them well, but not through us. And it's also possible to directly support Humorville and Humor Arts Museum. We have campaigns that run all the way from a fund of $1 to a campaign called 100,000 million, which is 100 people giving $1,000 to create 1 million smiles of relief, because humor is exponential. And all of that is also available on gestorofthepiece.com. And I'll chat that right now. And then also we'll be in touch with all of you here. So this is me typing, that's the sound of me typing, and there it is. So thank you all for being here. It's really an honor. And please go out into the day in the uplifting way that pleases you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all for attending.
Yes.
That's great. See you soon.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.